Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of Stay Tuned. This month, we have Marie with us. And like always, we're going to be talking about the movies that will be coming out in October, spooky month. Since it is spooky month, we're not going to talk about all the things that are coming out this month. We're going to try to focus on some of the horror related movies, just kind of keep it in theme. But as always, we do the research, we look into the movies so that you don't have to, and hopefully you get some movies that you want to check out by the end of the episode.
I'm excited because I like horror a little bit, so I'm glad I'm on for this episode. Kind of like
Just a
horror,
bit.
kinda.
I know I had to twist your arm to like get you in here once you heard the word horror. So hopefully you don't fall asleep on me while we're talking about these movies.
I know, I'll try.
With that, let's get started. Right off the bat, on October 3rd, we have coming to Max, not coming to theaters, we have Salem's Lot. So this is directed by Gary Duberman. He's known for he did Annabelle Comes Home. Wasn't really a fan of that one, but he did it. He also wrote both Nun movies and wrote both of the two It remakes. So, at least one or two out of five, I guess, a plus. That's what he worked on. But this is going to be starring Louis Pullman, Mackenzie Lay. Gonna butcher this name, but we got Pilo Asbeck and William Sadler. The basic description for this is when author Ben Mears comes back to his childhood home in search for some inspiration for his next book, he discovers that people in this home town are mysteriously turning into vampires. I absolutely hate when that happens. I remember having to come back home when I was out at school for vacations, and I used to hate when I would get back to my hometown. And all of a sudden, it's like, we got so many more vampires here. But with that,
Again?
I know, it was such a nuisance.
Yeah.
But with it being said, after you took a look at the trailer and what did you think? And are you familiar with the original Salem's Lot?
Not really. I know I watched it when I was a kid, and I don't remember barely a thing about it. So I really want to watch the original one again. It's on my list after, learning more about Stephen King movies in the last episode that we recorded. I want to watch it, and this trailer for this remake made me want to watch the original even more because I kind of was like, oh, this doesn't look so bad. This looks like a memory of when I would back to my hometown too, and then everybody be vampires too. And I was like, all I want to do is write. And when you come home and everybody's vampires in town, it really sucks. Wah, wah.
We're kind of in the, two peas in a pod. We're in the same boat when it comes to, I saw the original Salem's Lot as a kid, and honestly do not remember much, if anything, from it. If you were to ask me what happened in it, I was like, there was a lot somewhere in this town called Salem. That's probably the answer you would get because I was
Yeah.
so young when I watched this one. So in a way, I'm kind of re-entering this world with a clean slate. I do want to rewatch the original, but I think I'm gonna wait until I watch this one first, so it doesn't influence my viewing of this one. Because a
Mm.
lot of times remakes are not as good as the original. It's
Hmm.
because you're spending a lot of the time comparing it to the original. So I think I'm gonna watch this one, enjoy it for what it is, if I enjoy it or dislike it for what it is on its own merit, and then I'll go rewatch the original and then kind of compare from there. As you mentioned, we just recently did an episode review of a show that had a portion of it talking about Stephen King. And we all know it's tough to adapt Stephen King. That is a known fact. That's not even opinion at this point. It is tough to
Hmm.
do. They usually end up all over the spectrum between horrible and amazing classics. Anywhere within that spectrum, they can end up. Maybe they, you know, heavily subdued it for the trailer, but it's rated R. But the trailer gave me like Haunted Mansion PG rated vibes with like the visuals, and just it really didn't seem creepy. I'm not saying it didn't seem interested, but it just didn't seem nothing they showed in the trailer was like, "Ooh, I feel like that can be really creepy." It felt more Disney-ish in a way, which is weird because it's rated R. I can attribute that to maybe just how they decided to cut the trailer. Maybe we get
Mhm.
a red band trailer beforehand. Maybe not at this point because it's coming out, so soon. But I definitely plan on checking it out. It piqued my interest, caught my curiosity. I will check it out and then I will watch the original. Going on the next day, coming to theater on the October 4th, we have Monster Summer. This one definitely seems more towards the high, lighthearted aspect. But this is directed by David Henry. This is, I think, his second feature. He was actually, have you ever seen How I Met Your Mother?
I never watched the show.
Uh,
No.
for anyone that watched it, he was the son. In the episodes, usually it would start with in the future, the son and the daughter, and then the dad's telling them the story of how they met the mother. He was the son.
Mm,
So he was
okay.
throughout it, even though he didn't have like a huge role. And this is a second directorial feature. It's
Okay.
starring, yeah, Mason Thames, Mel Gibson, Kevin James. I was surprised to see him. Like
Yes.
uh, Abby Witherspoon, Lila Pate. And the general description of this one is a mysterious force disrupts Noah and his friends' summer fun. They team up with a retired detective, that's Mel Gibson, to embark on a journey to save their island from a monstrous threat. So, watching this one, what was your thoughts?
Well, it was very much like Monster Squad, Stranger Things, Sandlot hybrid mix. And it was funny because the guy from the Sandlot was in the trailer. And I was like, okay, so they're kind of combining it, the scary neighbor, the kids are afraid of the neighbor, then they like find out he's okay. And so it had all those vibes mixed together. It does seem I I was watching it, I'm like, what is I kind of want to know a little bit more about what the threat is. Maybe? Like, I was like, "Okay, is it some sort of force? Is it zombie-ish type thing? Is it alien? Like, what is it?" Like, I don't know what it is, but I kinda was, like, left a little wondering, like, I wanted a little bit of a hint of as to what the monstrous force is in this town. Just a little bit more to grab me.
Yeah, I kind and I may be completely off. For some reason, I felt it's maybe like a body snatchers type threat. Like the way it was looking, it was like, okay, something must be taking over people. I may
Yes.
be completely off because, like you said, it doesn't give you that information, which
Mm,
it's like I want to know, but then I'm like, I'm glad you didn't tell me. Like, let me be surprised. Go 90s trailer, not 2000s trailer.
that's true, that's true. It's just I just found it like, yeah, like, there's a kid who goes missing, he comes back, he's not the same. But then it shows these moments where it's like these bright lights are coming. I don't know, I was just like, "What is it?" I mean, I guess I need to watch, but that's how they get you. But I kinda wish the
Yeah,
trailer showed just slightly something.
it could be a little kind of in the realm of like the faculty that
Yeah, something like
actually,
that. Mhm,
aliens and they're taking over.
mhm.
Uh, but yeah, this movie, it reminds me of those movies I loved as a kid, like Goonies, or even,
Yeah, Goonies.
you mentioned Sandlot, Monster Squad, but even newer projects like Super 8,
Yeah,
Summer of '84, which I really enjoy, and then of course like Stranger Things, where
mhm.
you have like groups of kids who are like really close friends and just going on adventures. There's a
Yes.
threat, and forget all the adults. These kids are gonna go on an adventure and they're gonna solve this.
Yeah.
And I just always have a soft spot for those type of movies because I remember being a kid, wild imagination, and always imagining like going on crazy adventures with my friends, like kind of hoping like, ooh, let there be an alien invasion. I want to go on an adventure.
Yeah.
Not really thinking about what can go wrong. I'm just thinking like that would be fun. Yes. So this just looks like it's gonna be a fun adventure. With these type of movies, though, it comes down to how good are the child actors,
Yes.
how believable is their relationship? Because beyond the threat and all of that stuff, these movies, it hinges on the relationship and the chemistry between like the kids. You know, just it that we mentioned earlier. The big, yes, Pennywise is cool, but if those kids, if you, it wasn't believable that these kids were close friends going on this adventure, it just wouldn't have that. Sandlot relationships, Super 8, the Goonies, it's all
Mhm.
about the relationship first, then the rest of the story. So it's gonna hinge on
Yep.
that. And then lastly, how fun is this adventure? This type of movie, it was like, I feel like it can't take itself overly serious. You need to have fun because at the end, it's kids having an adventure. So
Mhm.
I do look forward to it. I think I'm gonna watch it. This seems like a fun one, just to kind of sit back, have some popcorn, and just enjoy the ride.
It does look fun. Maybe not like super duper horror scary at all. Like, it's more like a fun like friendship type movie, and you really want to care. You're right. You need to care about those kids, and you got to feel the stakes. Like you got to feel that connection between them. That's the most important part, more than anything else. So yes, yes, it looks interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen. I personally haven't seen uh M- Mel Gibson. Right?
Mel Gibson,
Is Mel
yeah.
Gib Mel Gibson in a movie in a while? I don't think I have.
The last thing that I saw him in, actually, it was a TV series, I believe on Peacock. It was a spin-off of the John Wick universe, kind of like a prequel spin-off.
Okay.
And I did see him in there. He played a villain. And I think before that, it was Fat Man, the Christmas movie with like mercenary Santa.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen him in anything in a while, so I'm wanting like a Signs type Mel Gibson performance, like taking the lead and like helping kids out, and yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
want.
I feel this might be closer to like Batman, kind of cranky type
Yeah, that's true.
character. I got
Yeah.
that impression there. The kids were scared of him. Like I feel like he has that reputation of like the grump, isolated and all of that stuff. So we might get that where as the movie goes on, he kind of warms up to the kids.
Oh yeah. I can yeah. And he's you know what? Because I think that he's gonna have like a daughter or like a child that something happened to them. And that's why he's grumpy. But then these kids are gonna be like, yeah, you're right. He's gonna get warm to these kids because something happened to his child. Maybe that what's happening now to the town happened to his kid. We'll see. I don't know.
And why is he a former detective? Does something make him
Exactly.
retire?
Well, we're gonna find out, Jose.
We're gonna find out on October 4th, or well,
Mm.
whenever we watch it, that's when it comes out.
Yeah.
Coming that same weekend, and I believe it's going straight to Shutter. I don't it's not going to theaters, but we have VHS Beyond coming out on October 4th. So this has a ton of directors. First of all, we have Kate Siegel in her
Mhm.
directorial debut. Some of you might know her as acting in quite a few horror projects. She's been in some Netflix series. The Haunting of Hill House was one of the big ones that she was in. She was also in the movie Hush, which I really like. Nice little cat and mouse type movie. And in she was one of the people talking in that show that we just did a bonus episode on. She
Hmm.
was one of the actresses who actually really loves horror and was talking horror in Shudder's horror's greatest show.
Hmm.
So we have her.
Hmm.
We have Justin Martinez coming back. He actually directed something in the first VHS. And he worked on another anthology series. I don't know if you ever seen it called Southbound. So he
Oh,
he also did that. One of the ones in that
okay.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, we have Christian Long, Justin Long's brother. He hasn't really done anything familiar. He did something called Lady of the Manor, but I haven't seen that one, so I'm not really familiar with it. That was the
Hmm.
only like major projects. We have Jay Cheel, also hasn't really done anything that I'm familiar with, nothing major. Virat Pal, same thing, nothing really like major. Jordan Downey, who did the movie Thanksgiving. I haven't you with the killer turkey. He did that one.
Awesome. I
So
love it.
yeah, made me laugh as soon as I saw it in his filmography. And last but not least, the one, the only Justin Long will be directing, one of the shorts in there.
Love it.
All the only other like feature thing that he's directed was actually that same movie, Lady in the Manor, with his brother. So
Okay.
now they're both working on another project, but their own separate aspects of it. So
Okay.
a lot of directors. We have a vet. We have people making their debut. We have some of the people, first time doing something like with major pool like behind it, something recognizable. So a little mix of everything. I'm very curious to see everyone's style in this.
Me too.
And we've had conversations. Justin Long is great to have in horror. He plays great characters. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see him on the other side of the camera, how he handles horror from someone that's been in so many horror movies.
Hmm.
Starring, this is an anthology with a bunch of different projects. There's no way we can name everyone. So take a look if you want, if you're curious. There's a lot of people involved in it. And then for the description of this, description is going to be the similar to others. Basically, this is a series of short horror stories connecting to one overarching story that kind of, blends them all together, with each story kind of being directed by a completely different person. And usually with each story, you're not only getting a change in plot, but you also a lot of times getting a stylistic change from
Yes.
person to person, and even sometimes subgenre changes from short to short. I mean, I've been watching the VHS since the first one. The first two are still the strongest in my opinion. And what makes these VHS movies entertaining is that you get a variety of horror subgenres, a variety of style within one single project. So it's like watching
Mhm.
5, 6 different horror movies in one sitting. They're not always bangers, but it keeps things fresh. And you get some unique visions of the way, some of these directors see horror. This one is thematic with a theme. It seems to be sci-fi horror. So they're all going
Mhm.
to seem to be focused on sci-fi horror. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always down for a horror anthology. For me, if at least 50% of the shorts hit, then I consider an anthology successful. So I'm just hoping for 50%. What are your thoughts on what you saw so far, and then just the series as a whole?
You know how I feel about it's like found footage, basically. All the VHSs are like found footage type POV short horrors, and I that's my favorite subgenre of films. And I've seen all the VHSs except for one. There's one that I hear is like the worst one that I just haven't watched. I forget which one it was.
Viral?
I think it was Viral. Yes, so I haven't seen Viral, but I've seen all the rest. And you're right, there's always some hits and some misses in anthology. Like you're prepared for that. And also there's just some stuff in it that's probably just not your style. It's like all subjective, but this one looked awesome because I loved everything I saw in the trailer, but I especially love when there's found footage horror that revolves around aliens or UFO sightings, because there isn't a lot of that. It's usually like paranormal stuff. When it comes to found footage, that's like the most that I've seen. But seeing the looking like there's like alien UFO sighting ones, and it looks like they're using actual footage from the Phoenix Lights sighting. That's what it looked
Hmm.
like. So when I
Yeah.
saw that, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get a Phoenix Lights backstory one. I'm like, it's so awesome. So I was pumped to see that. There's also it looks like some sort of infected zombie type one that looked almost like video game first person shooter type style and like a chainsaw. I was pumped. Like I'm ready. I'm so ready for this. Might be the most, yeah, I'm the most excited for the VHS one coming out in October
Yeah.
because that's just like up my alley.
That part, it reminded me. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Doom with The Rock in it. Terrible movie.
I
But
love it. I'm a guilty pleasure. I
I'm
love
not
it.
a fan. But there's one part where it goes first person. And that is the best part of the movie. Like, I have gone back and rewatched the movie just to get like that scene because that scene was so cool. They reminded me of that.
Oh yeah, because I grew up playing Doom, so I that movie is a guilty pleasure. But that part, I remember seeing that movie for the first time, and when that happens, he looks in the mirror because it's so you hear his breathing. It's just like the video game, and so
Yeah.
you're right. Whenever I see something like that too, it does remind me of Doom. It reminds me of it a lot. So I'm glad you brought that up because I love that.
All right, yeah, we're looking forward to this one. Maybe this is one where, we can take a look at, do a deep dive on it. So, be on the lookout. You might see one of those. All right, moving on to the week after, we have coming to theaters on October 11th, Terrifier 3. This is directed by Damien Leon. He did the other Terrifier movie, so he's keeping it going. Starring David Howard Thornton, who's Art the Clown,
Mhm.
Lauren Lavari, Samantha Scafidi, and Elliot Fulham are some of the actors that are going to be in it. The description for this one is: after surviving Art the Clown's Halloween massacre, Sienna and her brother struggle to rebuild their shattered lives. As the holiday season approaches, they try to embrace the Christmas spirit and leave the horrors of the past behind. However, just when they
Mm.
think they're safe, Art returns, determined to turn the holiday cheer into a living nightmare. I'm gonna start giving my thoughts on this one because I know
Mhm.
you have more experience with this series than I do, so I'll let you
Mhm.
go second. So right off the bat, I will say Terrifier is not for me. It is not my preferred style of horror. I'm really not into torture porn movies like this, Hostile, Human Centipede, movies like that. They're not my favorite type of horror. They rely a lot on shock value. Shock value doesn't really like do it for me. I saw the first one because like I like to at least give movies a chance before, I kind of give my opinion, especially when they're horror. I tend to give them a lot more chances. It did not change my mind, so I never bothered to see part two at all. This one definitely looks like it's increased the scope compared to the original, but it's still aiming for the same type of gory, shock value horror. I most likely won't be watching this one, but that's based on personal preference. So with that being said, I believe you've watched both of them. So,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on the series and what you saw from this trailer?
Okay, I will definitely agree with you that the torture porn type genre is not my thing either. I don't watch movies like that. It just is too much for me. I did watch the first Terrifier and I actually enjoyed the first one. I liked the grittiness of it. It was like really raw, dirty, gritty, felt very independent film. It was really intimate and like claustrophobic, and it was just, and I love the lighting, the blues and the reds and like the neon look, and it's just the grain. I enjoyed it. It was a lot, but I liked the first one. I'm not like, oh, I love Terrifier. Like I'm not one of those people, but I did
Mhm.
appreciate and enjoy the first one. The second one, I don't like Terrifier 2 at all. Like I don't like it. It's just too much. I'm not even just talking about like the gore and everything like that. It's just there's too much going on. It's so they're adding all this supernatural weird stuff, and I was just like, it's just too much for me. And it just seems like okay, like how far can we go? How far can we go? And I'm just not into seeing that. I'd like maybe a little more story, but I didn't even like the story that they added into it. I don't know. I can't explain it. Just Terrifier 2 definitely wasn't for me. So already knew that I probably won't watch Terrifier 3, but I watched the trailer for the first time today. I actually kind of was avoiding it because I'm like, man, I'm not gonna watch it. But I watched it today and I was like, yeah, it's just too much. Like it's just too much. I liked the intimate independent, gritty first one, but then it's like, it kind of is losing its magic or its je ne sais quoi. Like it's losing it for me. Art the Clown doesn't seem like scary anymore. I don't know. It's not for me. I did think it was funny that he was gonna do snow angels in blood angels on the ground. That was like kind of funny, but I know there's also apparently going to be a scene in Terrifier 3 that I just won't watch it just for that. I won't watch any movie that involves something like this. So I'll just say that. They're really pushing the envelope for this movie and they know it and I won't watch it even just for that. So
Yeah, it's oddly enough. So I never even watched the trailer for Terrifier 2. I saw
Yeah.
the first one and I had already committed like I'm never gonna see anything in the series. So watching this trailer for this with the only thing in my mind was the first one. The first thing that came to my head was like, this escalated quickly. Like, what is happening? It
Doesn't
it,
feel in the
it
same
jumped the
realm.
shark.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel even like Terrifier 2. I know there's a lot of people that love Terrifier 2 and more than the first one, but it just didn't feel it doesn't feel cohesive to me at all. And I do appreciate a new Christmas horror movie coming out. I like that. I like Christmas horror. And they even looks like they pay homage to Black Christmas in this one with Terrifier where he's in an attic in a chair and that was kind of I appreciated that, but I'm just like, I won't touch it just because I'm not a Terrifier fan anymore.
But if you were all a fan of Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2,
Hmm.
this seems like it's continuing doing what it was doing, so you probably will like this one.
Yes.
Again, this is just personal preference of just this subgenre in general that I tend to not be a fan of. And on October 18th, we have Smile 2. This is directed by Parker Finn, who's returning after directing the original Smile, starring Naomi Scott, Sosie Bacon, Kyle Gallner, and Drew Page. The description of this one is about to embark on a new world tour. Global pop sensation Sky Riley begins to experience an increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by escalating horrors and the pressure of fame, she must face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spirals out of control.
Mhm.
I believe you've seen the first Smile. So, what were your thoughts on the first Smile and going into this trailer?
I wasn't a big fan of the first Smile. I don't know, it didn't do it for me. But seeing this trailer for this one, I like the theme of Smile 2 better than the first one because it looks like it's kind of like an allegory of fame, and because she looks like she's depressed, but you're famous and you're in the spotlight, and you got to be put on a smiley face and perform and look like you're happy living the life. So I like that aspect of it, and also you're constantly being surrounded by people with excited, smiling faces, like so excited to see you and like so how is she gonna be able to tell like who's like possessed by the smile monster or like who's like genuinely happy to see her and like that's a sad thing too in itself where it's like is this person actually genuine with me or is this like this entity like oof I don't know this one seems like it has a lot more depth to the story than the first one did so I don't know I'm not like rushing to watch this one just because the first one was kind of but I do like the theme concept behind this smile better than the first, from what I saw.
Oh, oh, you're definitely looking at my notes. Definitely.
Yeah. Mhm.
So the first Smile overall was received well by
Mhm.
audiences, and
Mhm.
but I know there was people that didn't like it. I think I might have been the only one in NASS that actually enjoyed it out of the
Oh,
group.
okay.
I don't think anyone else did.
Okay.
The first one, I mean, the first one definitely had its flaws, but I found it overall entertaining. You know, there was some cool scenes, there was some creepy scenes that were done well during it. The ending wasn't my favorite, but overall, I think the movie was a pleasant surprise. It came out better than what I was expecting when I first went
Mm.
into it. I think changing from a regular common person to a big celebrity pop star, aka Lady Gaga, is what it seems like they were going for
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a good change. I agree with that because it does add a new dynamic to the story.
Mhm.
You know, we all know celebrities can have very creepy fans as is. So, you know, you can really play with that, like you were talking about of, okay, is this entity or is this just a regular crazy fan that I have here that's acting all weird and odd? So that's going to be a good dynamic that they can play off, you know, where you can have her going off on a fan and it's not even the entity. It's just literally a weird fan that's
Mhm.
there. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I do hope now that we're getting into the second one, we get a little more lore on the entity, get a little more,
Hmm.
with these type of movies where you're doing multiple ones based around the same creature, entity, or killer. I like when we slowly find out a little bit more. On top of just like the different setting and the different theme of it is okay, let me know a little bit more about this creature. So I hope we do get that. But,
Hmm.
overall, I'm looking forward to watching it.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, and then I will judge whether I will watch it or not. But seeing as how you like the first one, maybe I won't trust your judgment. Just joking.
Let's move on to the next week, and then we have coming to Netflix on October 25th, we have a movie called Don't Move. This is directed by Brian Netto and Adam Schindler. They haven't done anything that I'm familiar with, but they have worked on projects together, directors.
Okay.
So they're coming in with some kind of working relationship already, which should make things easier, in this project. This is starring Kelsey Asbill, Finn Whitrock, who I did recognize. Originally saw him in American Horror Story,
Mm,
the Carnival season, which
okay.
he played a good villain, and it seems like he might be the villain in this. So he plays that like whacked out character very well. So that's a
Okay.
plus. And then Daniel Francis is another person who's starring in it. The general description of this is nice and simple. When a killer injects, her with a paralytic agent, a woman must run, fight, and hide before her body completely shuts down. What were your thoughts watching this trailer?
I mean, it's also produced by Sam Raimi, so I was like, I like that. I'm a sucker for Sam Raimi productions and whatever he's attached to. But okay, so this trailer reminds me a lot of one of my favorite episodes of Lost when they do like a side episode about two like side characters that get
Mhm.
bit by a spider that paralyzes you. And you're fully aware, but you can't talk, you can't, and your breathing slows down. To me, that is one of the most horrifying like things to think about, like being completely aware but 100% helpless. Oh, like I don't even, this movie just feels that's like almost claustrophobic in a way because you're trapped like within yourself. You can't do a damn thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it looked like it was filmed really beautifully too. Like it actually looks like the cinematography is going to be really nice. So I'm excited for this one because I find that concept terrifying and just wrong. It's so wrong. It's just so wrong.
It's like sleep paralysis, but out in the world.
Yeah,
It
in real life,
reminds
like
me.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen it's an old movie from Hayden Christensen, I think is in it. It was called Awake, and that happened to him, and I think he was going through a surgery in
Oh my
there,
God.
but he was fully conscious the whole time, and
Ugh.
he can hear what they were saying, uh, but he was like fully completely paralyzed. So that reminded me of that one. Uh, I'm intrigued. You know,
Yes.
it seems like this is gonna be like a cat and mouse like horror thriller. I like that the trailer doesn't give away much about the story. It just sets the basic rules of the movie. Someone is hunting someone else down, and they, poison them with something that's gonna cause their body to gradually shut down over a set amount of time. Now, what I like about that element is that it adds to the tension because it's not just the escaping. You're on a time limit to do it. I know, and you as a fellow gamer, probably know, when I'm playing video games, my anxiety level is way different when I'm fighting a final boss versus when I'm fighting a final boss with a time limit.
Kramer,
Now
yeah.
I now I have everything else to worry about completely instead of
Mhm.
focusing on just defeating what I need to defeat. So I feel when movies add some kind of like time limit to it on top of what's already happening, that is a very good and natural way to add an extra layer of tension. And I forget which director was it. I remember once a director was talking about how to build a scene And if you have two characters, let's say in a cafe, like talking, trying to solve a problem in there, and they figure it out right away, that's some form of tension. But then if they're talking and under the table, there is a bomb that's set to
Oh,
go
it's
off.
Hitchcock. Isn't that like a Hitchcock thing?
It probably is.
Mhm.
It's escaping me right now.
Mhm.
But it was
Mhm.
like once you add that time limit to it,
Yeah.
on top of whatever problem it is that the characters need to solve, you take it to a whole nother level of tension. And as an audience member, that can increase your anxiety because you're like, do this, do this. I was like, the time is running out. Like you get all this added onto it. So I'm fully on board for that. The only thing I'm thinking is from the trailer, she seems to be unconscious multiple times. So I wonder if like the paralytic aspect from the poison, I wonder if that happens right away, or maybe it's something that doesn't occur until the third act. How long is this gonna last? Because you see her like unconscious in like a house and like tied up. You see her unconscious in a car. You see her unconscious outside. So
Yeah.
is it like a situation where we're gonna see her, get taken, trying to escape, then get injected, and then the third act is her trying to run while before her body shuts down? Or is the whole movie gonna be 80-90% of the movie gonna be her running with this, in her? That's gonna make a big difference on how the movie is received.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't tell, but there is also a part where she's, like, underwater, and it's like, can you imagine? Oh god, being fully aware and not like, I have chills and goosebumps just thinking about this whole thing. Because 'cause I'm like, this is just, like, one of the most horrifying things ever, but, imagine being, like, underwater and, like, I can't, and knowing you can't move, you can't oh, I
They did their job with the trailer. They got my
yes.
curiosity, they got my intrigue, and they got me asking questions and
Yeah.
wanting to watch it to see what the answers to those questions are. So,
Yeah.
good job to the creators of that trailer. You did your thing without over spoiling the movie, which is
Mhm.
something that's very rare these days when it comes to trailers. And then on the 31st, October 31st, coming to Hulu, as you know, part of Hulu always does Huluween in October. So as part of Huluween, we have Mr. Crocket. This is directed by Brandon Espy. This is, I believe, his first feature, but he did write and direct the short that this is based off of. So it's kind
Okay.
of, and we've had this discussion before. We had a few films like the what's the pool one? They just came
Oh,
out like
Night Swim and
like
Lights Out.
Night Swim, Lights Out, those were all
Mhm.
shorts that were expanded by the original person. Those
Mhm.
weren't successful. Maybe this one. Someone's got to crack the code and figure out how to expand it while still keeping it good.
Yes.
We do our short film episodes, and we always discuss like what is expandable, what isn't expandable. So I haven't seen the short here, so I hope it's something that they're able to expand without I don't want to be watching it and well, actually, let me give wait on my opinion. I'm jumping ahead of it. This is starring Jerica Hinton, Elvis Nolasco, Aidan Gavin, and Crystalline Lloyd. The description is it's again, as I mentioned, based off a short story by the same name. A hyperactive young boy pushes his mom over the edge by continuously playing an old VHS tape of a children's TV show, Mr. Crocket. But this show and host are darker than what they seem.
Reminds me of, the show Channel Zero a little bit, like, that's what the Channel Zero the first season all the season
You're
the first
reading
sea
my
I didn't get
notes. You're reading my
no.
notes.
I mean, yes, I can see through your glasses what your screen. It reminds me of that I didn't finish that season of Channel Zero, but, that's what it reminded me of. It looks really creepy, and if I think about shows that I watched when I was a kid and how friggin' creepy they actually were, like the Banana Splits and this is a Canadian show, The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. I don't know if you guys have that in America, but Vincent Price was in it, and it has like a wolf man and a vampire and an Igor, and it's so weird. But it's just like we watched this as kids, and you don't realize how weird it is. Like Teletubbies is even creepy as hell. That
Oh,
baby in
that
the
was right.
sun, like it's weird. And then so having a kids show actually being something that's horrifying, I love that because I love the innocence and mixed with the horror a lot. That's like some of my favorite like concoctions being like, "Oh, hi, we're cheery, happy. This is for kids," but it's actually like, "No, it's like evil." I love that. So it looked very interesting to me, but unfortunately, we don't have Hulu in Canada, so I didn't even know Huluween was a thing. I probably won't be able to watch it because Canada doesn't have Hulu. So I don't know if we're gonna get it here.
But I think in Canada they blended into Disney Plus, so it might end up being on Disney Plus.
Maybe it might be, yeah. It's some of the stuff we do get from Hulu and Disney Plus, so we'll see, we'll see. But I did like the concept, and it looked kind of like old. I don't. Is it actually like retro old? It looked like it was a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like it was. The show definitely
Yeah.
was probably like
Yes.
80s, early
Okay.
90s.
Yeah.
Uh
I love that.
it made me feel like a darker episode of like Are You Afraid of the Dark? It kind of gave me like that feeling.
Yeah.
Like if Mr. Rogers turned evil. But it's funny
Hmm.
because I actually have put on my notes that, the concept, it reminds me of Channel Zero also. And I believe, what was that called? Candle Cove. Candle Cove was the first season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the one I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, so it reminded me of that, and it kind of in concept. I saw the TV glow.
Hmm.
Was the other one, which that one it was a disappointment for me personally. And then that first season of that Shutter show called Channel Zero, the Candle Cove season, that
Hmm.
was a good concept. That for me was ruined by bad acting, very bad acting.
Yes. Yes. Thank
So
you. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into it either.
yeah,
But yes,
the lead
the
the
concept
lead
was good.
character kept pulling me out.
Yeah.
So I feel there's potential with this one to kind of give me the creepiness and the atmosphere that I didn't get with I Saw the TV Glow. That I was like really looking forward to, and I never got that, which is part of the reason I'm disappointed in that movie. I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious. I'll definitely like check it out. Want to see how dark it actually gets,
Yeah.
um, how serious it takes itself. Like I feel you have to add a little bit of like lightness in this because of the whole concept of children's show coming to life and all of that stuff. So it's got to be a little bit on the silly end while still keeping the creepiness. And that's not a balance that's easy for movies to pull off. So I'm hoping Huluween can do it.
Yeah, when you're involving children in things, you you gotta if it's like overly dark, it's just like it's too much. Like for me at least, I'm like if you're involved, there should be a little bit of like a comedic undertone to it. But the thing is too, I think like how do you make a full length movie about this? I mean, it's possible, but and I always I it makes me happy when people who make short films get their chance to make their short film a feature. I think that's precious. I love that. Isn't that the dream? Like that's the but then some things it's like it was better when it was a tighter, shorter story. So like we said before, sometimes size does matter. And sometimes the shorter the better. It's more impactful. So we'll see. So we'll see. We'll have to watch this movie if I can watch it in Canada, and then we'll have to watch the short and see which is better. Is shorter better or
Yes.
is longer better? We'll have to see.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, Um, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And it seems in the trailer that kids are disappearing due to this show, that they seem to be getting pulled into the world. And I
Right.
think that leaves room to expand it. I can't see this being a 2 hour one, but I can see there being like, 90-minute, hour and a half type show because, you've got the introduction of the characters, then getting into the show. Everything's good at first with the show, then things slowly start escalating with the show. Then you got the parents noticing, you got the kids disappearing. Then you go into like how we're gonna get the kids back, the possible rescue, maybe even going into that world, which it seems
Mhm.
like they might be doing on top of that. So there's room there.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of like when you're expanding it, how are you gonna do it while still keeping a similar tone and not adding bloat to it, where
Mhm.
it stays tight. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That is gonna be the mission for the movie. But I'm down to give it a try. It's October. I'm gonna see every horror movie that comes across my desk
Yep.
during the month of October. With that being said, I know we didn't do this like we normally do, where we talk about pretty much all the major movies that came out. If you're watching this and you're wondering, what about this movie? What about that movie? What about this movie? We try to stick with the movies that are closer to horror because it is this month. So I want to throw out a honorable mention of other movies that are also going to be coming out that we didn't discuss during this episode. On October 4th, we have the sequel to Joker, Joker Folie Deux, in there. So that's coming out on October 4th. October 11th, we have Saturday Night Movie, which is a movie based on the early days of Saturday Night Live and all of those cast members. We have on October 17th coming to Prime a movie called Brothers, which is kind of this buddy cop, but without the cop aspect of it between two very different twin brothers in there. That looks kind of could be funny. On October 17th to Netflix, we have a movie called The Shadow Strains. It's a foreign like action thriller type movie. Then on October 25th, we have Venom: The Last Dance. Judging by the title, probably the last one in that series. Please let it be the last one in that series. So that comes on that comes out October 25th. And then since there was no horror TV shows that I noticed coming out during the month. We did have three other genre TV shows. We have Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft coming to Netflix on October 10th. That follows. It seems like it's a more serious, less like silly take on Tomb Raider. Looks good. Then we have coming to Prime the Citadel Diana, which is a spin-off of the Citadel series that they had from a couple of years ago. That comes out October 10th. And then lastly, on October 11th, we have a show called The Disclaimer coming to Apple TV. And if you've been keeping up with our Stay Tuned, you know we always talk about how good Apple TV shows are. So hopefully that's there. So that's a quick rundown of the non-horror ones that we didn't talk about here, but we will be coming out. So feel free to check those out. With that being said, if make sure you like, subscribe. If there's anything that we missed or anything that you want to talk about, give your opinion on the ones that we did talk about. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? Do you disagree with our thoughts on some of these movies? Do you agree? Make sure you leave that in the comments below. And we will be back next month for the Stay Tuned November. And we're going to be bringing this to you as long as we can at the beginning of each month or the end of the month, depending on when we want to release it. So I have been your host for this episode, Jose. You can find us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. You can also find our episodes on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, the works. And with that being said, I will see you all next month.